The cinnamon is a fly in Mary Orvis Marbury's book, Favorite Flies and Their Histories. It is a trout fly. I'm tying it from the illustration in the book, so I am not sure at all about the ingredients, which is typical with most of the flies in her book. Just have to guess at what she ties them on, or what she ties on them. I am tying this fly on a number 8 hook. It does have that kind of bend, curve at the bend, typical of the flies that she tied on. My fly does have an eye on it, hers did not. I am using a rusty brown thread, a cinnamon colored thread. For the tail, I'm going to use 3 fibers from this turkey flat. I'm really not sure what the best fiber for the tails in her flies is, but I think these white turkey flat fibers work okay. Clip out the butt ends. Now I do want to separate those fibers, so I have just a piece of thread. Bring that back around the hook, pull up on those fibers and see if I can get them to separate. Alright, they're stubborn. And that's a turkey flat. You know, they've got those little like Velcro edges on them. And I think just about all the feather fibers have those, and so to figure out a way to separate them and keep them separated is the trick. Alright, so I've got those 3 separated. Then I'm going to take that piece of thread and I'm going to bring one side of that folded thread around the center section to the back and one to the front. That way I'm separating those fibers. Maybe. Okay. So now I'm just going to take my finger and thumb and pinch that and wrap up over the top of that thread just to hold it in place. A couple of loose wraps. Then I can pull on those threads. Try not to pull too much. I don't want it separated too far apart. Alright, now I'm going to grab those again and take my thread back and try to pull them back together a little bit. Alright, that looks pretty good. I've got them separated. So this fly is intended to imitate either a caddis or a mayfly dun, probably the dun with the 3 feathers. Clip out that thread. And again, I have no idea what Mary used for the body of her fly, so I have some brown wool crewel yarn, and I have taken a red and a orange permanent marker, so those together, and just colored that thread. The orange was too orange, the red was too red. I think together they do give me the cinnamon look. Right, and she says, Mary says, that the reason this fly is called a cinnamon is because of the color. So I'm trying to get a cinnamon colored body. And this yarn, wool yarn, seems to work fairly well to do that. So I'll just wrap that. It's not a fat body, and I think it might in the illustration be a little bit heavier than I'm making it, but I think this works. And then I want to make sure that I don't crowd the eye. That's the piece that I've had the most trouble with is when I tie the wing in to tie it too close to the eye. And I am using a straight hook here instead of a down eye, which makes it a little bit harder, I think, to tie in the wing than it would with a down eye. But again, I'm working on trying to get these flies to look more like Mary's. I do take quite a few liberties, I guess, but so I'm using this hen cape for the Hackle. I think it's about the right color, so I'll just clip the end and then clip out some fibers. Just to create some short fibers right there on the butt end of that feather. And it doesn't really matter, I guess, which direction I'm going to tie that in. She does say that this fly is supposed to float. So it would have been, we would think of it today as a dry fly. But I'm tying it with the shiny side facing me, so it isn't going to reverse the hackle fibers towards the eye of the hook. But I think for this look of this fly, that's fine. I could tie them in with the dull side facing me, and that would force those fibers to lean forward more, but I am pulling them back, wrap up around and over that stem. And then I want to create a far enough distance from the eye to tie in the wings. And then that's a fine enough feather, hackle feather, I can just snap it out. I'm using, I think this is dyed turkey for the wings, and so I'm going to cut off. I have two of those that are matching, and so I'll cut off a section about the width of the hook gap. So I have those two wing sections, and I'm going to back them, and then hold that, pinch them. I guess I can put one on each side of the hook shank. Pinch them to about the length that I want, and then I'm going to wrap a loose wrap up and then pull up on that to cinch it in. Do a few wraps and then go ahead and wrap under. And here's the thing that I have the biggest struggle with is keeping those wing fibers together. That one doesn't look too bad. And with a down eye, it's a lot easier to cut out all this extra quill and keep the eye clean. I think I'm okay. I'll just wrap head. I do have some fibers hanging out over the eye, but not too bad. I think it'll be fine. If I was fishing this, I could still get a tippet in there. Put a whip finish on that. I do use a diluted goop for my head cement. Just have a jar, stick a needle in the jar, grab a drop or two, and just drop that on the head. That'll soak into that head. And then I have a hackle feather that I'm going to pass through the eye just to make sure that the eye is clean and I can get tippet in it. This is a cinnamon from Mary Orvis Marbury's book, Favorite Flies and Their Histories, one of her trout flies.